everybody doing? You having a good time today? Yeah. It was lovely, man. To everyone I met and spent time with, thank you. You were absolutely fucking delightful and stuff. I recently went fucking crazy, so it was nice to spend time with people who didn't mention it. Nobody was scared. Nobody was like, "Are you okay?" or shit like that. So thank you. It means the world. Okay, we got an hour, so let's talk about whatever all you want to talk about. Just to give you where I am in my life right now. This week, on Thursday and Friday, we're moving out of my house, the house we've lived in for the last 22 years, and moving into a new house. It's cool. I got another house, but it's weird because this is a house that we raised my kid in and lived there for 22 years with my wife, my kid, and her parents. There were always 5 of us, and then the kid got her own house, so she fucked off. And then my wife's parents, they moved into their own place. So it was just me and my wife in this giant fucking house. And after a certain point, it felt weird. So we were like, let's downsize a little bit. But that's a great conversation in theory. And then when it comes time to actually move, my old lady does not want to fucking leave this house. I'm ready to go. We're going to drag her out with her fingernails crawling across the fucking floor and stuff. So, but it's just time, man. A lot of weird fucking shifts going on in life right now. I mean, this is going to sound so sad, but it's going somewhere. I had this dog, Shecky. Shecky, if you've ever listened to podcasts that I do, she was always like the third person in the background, always kind of yapping and shit. I'd be like, Shecky, shut the fuck up. Shecky shut the fuck up eternally recently. She passed away at age 18 years old, man. And I was fucking lucky to have her for as long as this. She was a miniature dachshund and accompanied me everywhere I went and stuff. And she was in a lot of fucking pictures that I took for the press and stuff like that. But she died while I was away in the house. I had went to go see my mom. My mom was going through a thing at the hospital and stuff. She was in the hospital for 11 weeks. So I went to see my mom, and when I left, Shecky, who was 18 but never showed it, just plucky as fuck, man, would run around. The only way you knew that she was on the older side is she had sugar snap. She used to be a rich red-brown hair, but then her face got whitish and her belly got whitish. But other than that, she fucking motored around, and you would never know that this dog was as old as she was. So when I left, I didn't think, this may be the last time I see Shecky because she was so vital and stuff. Then I went away, then I came home, and when I got back, first thing I saw, as soon as I walked in the house, my wife was like, hi, and I was like, where's the fucking dog? And she was like, sit down, I have to talk to you. And so she sat me down, and I was like, what's up? And I thought she was going to get divorced or something, but no. She was just like, we lost Shecky. And I was like, where is she? And she goes, no, we lost her. And I was like, what do you mean? And she's like, Shecky passed away. And she told me the story about, she took Shecky to bed with her, and Shecky always slept between us on the bed and stuff, which really fucked with our sex life, but whatever. It's weird having a big wiener in the bed that wasn't mine. So she took Shecky to bed and went to bed at 11, 12 o'clock. And then she was woken up at 4:30 because she said she smelled something really foul. She turned on the light. Shecky had expired in the middle of the night, and all of her fluids were coming out of the front and the back and stuff. So, Jennifer was fucking traumatized, right? You don't want to go to bed, wake up with a dead family member next to you, least of all one that's leaking fluids and shit like that. So it was a real, trying thing for her, but, I'll be honest with you, when it happened, because the dog was so vital, and Jennifer told me, she passed away, I honestly thought my wife killed the fucking dog. And there was a whole 2-week period where I was very sus of my wife. Because my wife had just gotten these 2 German Shepherds, which are wonderful, Lucky and Birdie. She went to get a little German Shepherd puppy. And then the rescue place was like, have you met the puppy's mother? Brought the fucking mom out, and then Jen was like, I'll take them both and shit. So we have 3 German bitches in the house. And, 4 if you count my wife, Jennifer. So we were trying to keep the dogs apart from one another because Shecky hated all the other dogs and stuff. The big German Shepherd, Lucky, was kind of scared of Shecky, even though she was small. But the little German Shepherd, Bertie, who was just like a puppy, but a very big puppy, like adored Shaggy and would constantly try to play with her and stuff. But Shaggy hated her and would bite her face, and the dog didn't care. She was just like into it and shit. So I told Jen before I left, I was like, these dogs cannot fucking interact unless I'm around. So like, these dogs got to sleep downstairs with your parents and stuff. Shecky stays in the bed. She was like, all right. So when I got home and she's like, Shecky passed away, after the initial shock wore off, the first thing I thought was like, what did those fucking German Shepherds do to my dog and shit? So I was just like, what happened? And Jennifer told me the story, and I was like, and she was like, why? Why are you saying it like that? And I was like, well, nothing. It's just Shecky seemed to be the picture of fucking health when I left. And she was like, well, you know, the dog was 18. I was like, So for like 2 weeks and shit, I didn't feel safe sleeping around my wife. Because I was like, if she killed my dog, maybe I'm fucking next. So at one point I had to take the 2 German Shepherds in to our veterinarian, Dr. Kumar, who's like been with us for like 20 years and stuff. We took all of our dogs to him. We had, back in the day, 2 yellow labs, Scully and Mulder. We were big X-Files fans. Louie, and then Mad Mardigan, who I named after Val Kilmer and Willow and stuff. And then Shecky, of course, and then, you know, now the new dogs. So he's been around for a while. And, you know, our dogs, I keep our dogs alive for a long fucking time. Scully made it to 12 and then she passed in her sleep, mercifully removing that decision from my hands. The other dogs lost the power of their legs in the back and shit, but I didn't give a fuck. I became their back legs. I put a scarf under their back legs and I'd walk them and shit and be their hind legs. So I was able to keep like Mulder alive for 2.5 years after most people were like, you should fucking put that thing down. And I was like, no way, man, he's still wagging his tail, he's still fucking eating and shit. If he wants to eat, he's wagging his tail. There's no way I'm letting this dog go and stuff. So I was able to keep these dogs going for a long time and also accept the fact over a long period of time that things passed. You could always tell the end was coming. Shecky was a shock because there was nothing about her that was unhealthy and shit like that. So Jennifer asked me to bring the German Shepherds into Dr. Kumar to get their checkups and stuff. So I bring the dogs in. He's like, these are lovely fucking dogs. You did, you know, God, you guys will never not get dogs. I was like, yeah, Jennifer got these 2. I can't vouch for them and shit. And so he checked them out. He's like, they're great. They're healthy. And I was like, awesome. Good to know. He's like, I'm very sorry about Shecky because Dr. Kumar was the one that came and picked Shecky up, had her cremated, and gave me her ashes and a little paw print and stuff like that, which I still have. So, you know, he was like, I'm so sorry about Shecky. I was like, yeah, me too. He's like, 18 years though, that's wonderful. I was like, yeah. I said, Doc, can I talk to you for a second? And he's like, why are you waving me over? We're alone. I said, I want to have a man-to-man conversation with you. And he goes, okay. And I was like, did you notice anything suspicious about Shecky's death? And he's like, what do you mean? And I was like, I don't know, was foul play at work here? And he was like, the dog was 18 years old. He's like, what do you think happened? I was like, I don't know, man. When I left, the dog seemed pretty healthy, and I came back, suddenly the dog's dead. He's like, at 18 years old? He's like, anything above 14 years is a fucking gift. He's like, what do you think happened? I was like, I don't know, I think Jennifer got 2 new German Shepherds, and suddenly, like, fucking, maybe Shecky met with some foul play. He's like, you think your wife killed your dog? He's like, don't say it out loud, but fucking yes, that's what I think. And he was just like, I assure you, he's like, that dog died of a heart attack and stuff. He's like, I checked her out when it was all done. He's going, but you know, fucking, she did live a long time. The doctor goes, look, when I die, I want to come back as one of your fucking old ass dogs. You're able to keep alive for a very long time. And so finally, when I brought the dogs back from the vet, you know, that's when I started warming up to my wife again and shit. And like 2 nights into like me being myself again with her, she was just like, seemed weird for 2 weeks. And I was like, did I? And she said, yeah, you felt like you were holding me at a distance. And I was like, well, you know, honestly, I thought, like I talked to Dr. Kumar and he told me Shecky died of a heart attack and shit. But for a minute there, I thought, you might have had something to do with it. She was like, you thought I killed Shecky? I said, Shecky was my daughter as much as she was yours. I was like, I know, but Shecky never really liked you. She was like, what do you mean? I I said, we all know that Shecky loved me and everyone else she fucking tolerated and shit. And Jennifer was like, yeah, that's why I think fucking Shecky like went the way she did just to fuck with me. I said, how do you figure? She's like, I honestly think Shecky defiantly died with you gone just so I'd have to explain myself to you. And I was like, that would be a really Shecky fucking move, wouldn't it? So Shecky gone, it's much easier for me to like let go of that house, move into a new place. But Jennifer, like, you know, when she forgot that I was coming out to Knoxville and stuff. So I told her yesterday, I was like, well, I gotta get on a plane at a certain point. She's like, for what? I was like, I'm going to Fanboy in Knoxville. She's like, what do you mean? I was like, there's a whole fucking Comic-Con that I'm going to. It's been on the calendar for a long fucking time. I was like, you can come with me. She's like, I don't want to leave this house. We're leaving this house next week and shit. And I was like, well, I mean, that's great, but somebody got to pay for the next fucking house. So headed down to Knoxville. So it was really nice to actually spend the day with you all and take my mind off a bunch of shit, like leaving that house and being emotional about the dog. Weird way to open the Q&A. I feel honesty is best, and I like to say we're leave it up to you guys now. Anything you want to talk about, we'll talk about. Throw your hands in the air, wave them like you just don't care. We'll start over there and we'll move on. Are you wearing a Smodcastle jersey?
No, I'm wearing a...
Oh, I signed that today. Fucking hey, man. How are you? What's your name? What is it, Dave?
Yeah.
Everyone give it up for Dave. He's going first. What can I do for Dave?
What was your favorite production, man, out of all of them?
What was my favorite of all the flicks? It's tough to rank them and shit because they're all like your kids, right? Like each one of them I can say, well, not Cop Out, fuck that one. I didn't write it, so it's easy to treat that like the redheaded stepchild. But the rest of them came from my head and heart, so it's really tough to like kind of separate them. You know, you love them all for different reasons. Just like I only have one kid, so I never had to figure out which one I like better. But you know, Jason's got 2 kids, and he's just like, oh, I love them both the same. I'm like, yeah, right. But with the flicks, like there are ones that were fun to do, more fun than others. Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back was just nonstop fun. It never got boring and shit because every day we had new cast members coming in to join us and shit. So like, you know, hey man, fucking Princess Leia's here today. Hey man, fucking Luke Skywalker's here today. Hey man, fucking Stifler's here today. You know? So every day it was like a new adventure and shit like that. Jay and Silent Bob Reboot was a lot of fun for me because that was the one I almost died right before that one. So that whole movie was like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm still fucking alive. So I had more fun doing that than I had fun doing any of the other movies previously, probably the previous 10 years. Not because it's a grind, I love fucking making movies, but that one I was like, I'm living on borrowed time. That's something I say to my wife all the time. I was like, I'm living on borrowed time. She's like, that's so fucking morbid and shit. I was like, it's not morbid, it's true. We're all living on borrowed time. I'm just acutely aware of it, act accordingly. So, Reboot was a really fucking good time for me. Clerks 2, oddly enough, was a fantastic time because we went to shoot that in La Brea, California. We were living in California. So I could have slept in my bed and then just drove down to La Brea to shoot the movie and shit. But there was a Days Inn that was right next to the set where we were shooting. And instead of getting like trailers, like on a movie, you get those 2-bangers or trailers or shit like that. You know, one day we were scouting, I was like, there's a fucking Days Inn right next door. And they were like, ew, I know. And I was like, I know, but the rooms are fucking $35 a night. And so the line producer was like, man. And I was like, well, I mean, fucking do the math. I bet you it'd be cheaper to rent fucking hotel rooms than it will be to rent a fucking trailer. And they did the math, and I was right and shit. They're like, you sure you want to stay at a fucking rundown Days Inn? I was like, I fucking live for this shit. I said, imagine, I said, instead of a dressing room and shit like that, we'll have like a dressing motel room. It'll be great. So, you know, for me, it seemed practical. Jason Mewes turned it into his apartment and shit. And he also lived in California and had his own fucking place and shit like that. But being at the Days Inn, I remember the first day we were there, like, he was like, I'm gonna stay overnight. And I was like, why? We just get on the fucking freeway and we'll be home in like 35 minutes. He goes, no, fuck that, man. I'm gonna stay here. So you wanna go to Target with me? And I was like, what are you Target? He's like, I wanna get decorations, man. I wanna deck out my fucking home. So I was like, I don't want to go to Target, but I'll go just to see what the fuck you're gonna buy. I went and spent $500 turning like a Days Inn motel room into an apartment, something habitable and shit, decorations, and he spent like 2 hours putting the room together. Got stringy lights that lit up and shit like that. He bought these fucking like veils to put over the lamps and shit. And he's like, this is my fuck pad. So he insisted on staying down there. I was like, I'm not gonna fucking sleep. He's like, you're gonna stay overnight? I was like, fuck no. I was like, I'm gonna go sleep in my own bed. He's like, oh man, you changed. I was like, yeah, I fucking changed. Like, I like sleeping in my own bed. That's always been the fucking case and shit. He goes, I dare you to spend the night down here. And I was like, fine, I will. So I spent the night down there, and it was convenient because I woke up the next morning and was able to go right to work and shit. So I was like, oh, he's got a point. There's something about fucking staying and shit. And slowly over the course of the first week of production, he convinced everybody to just stay overnight at the Days Inn. We were supposed to use these rooms just to get dressed and put our costumes on and shit like that. But fucking, like, he tricked Rosario into staying. Rosario, he was like, Rosario, man, fucking, you gotta stay. That's how we roll on these movies. That's the first one she ever did with us and shit like that. And he's like, that's how Kevin Smith production goes, man. We all stay together like it's camp and shit. And she was like, all right, I fucking guess and shit. So she elected to stay overnight as well. The first night she was there, fucking Muse went and banged on her door. She opened the door. She was like, what's up? He's like, yo, man, I'm watching that movie you're naked in. You want to come watch it? And she was like, no. He's like, that's how we roll on Kevin Smith. So she fucking went and watched that fucking movie that she's in with Colin Farrell where she's all naked and shit like that. And Jason was like watching the whole time, sitting next to her whenever she was naked in the movie. He was like, nice. So that production was fun because by the time we were done with week one, everyone was just staying down there and stuff. And I edit while the movie's going on, so like I'd get done shooting and I would go spend all night just cutting the movie and stuff like that and go back to work the next morning. And then it became so easy, like, when you're making something, you'll set up a shot, and then it takes about 20, 25 minutes to light it and all that shit. So I'd just go to my room, and I'd cut the movie. We rented a whole other room and put the editing system in there. The editing system used to be big. Now you can edit a movie on your fucking laptop. I edited fucking Clerks 3 on the shitter, because it's that fucking portable. But back on Clerks 2, it was a bigger system with big monitors and shit like that. So we rented a whole ass motel room for that, and between takes, I would run and go cut scenes together and then come back to work and stuff. Very convenient for while you're making a movie. You see anything you're missing, you do pickups. Like the scene that Jay and Silent Bob's first scene in the movie, where Jay's like, I'd like to find an alien and fuck it. That was not the first scene. We'd shot a different first scene, and when I cut it together, I was like, I fucking like it. I was like, but we're here, and we're at the location, so like, I'm gonna rewrite a new scene, and the next day we just shot a whole different scene and stuff. So it became not just like convenient to stay there, but also helpful for the movie. And Jay hosted the movie, like all fucking throughout the shoot, where he'd go around like checking on people. He's like, you all right? You need a drink? You want me to get you a drink? Who needs a drink? I was like, we got fucking PAs for this shit. You're in the fucking cast. He's like, I got a lot of free time. You didn't write me enough dialogue. So I always have fond memories of that shoot. It was such a fun shoot. And in terms of like which ones I like the most, like Red State I love because it shows, it's the only movie that's different, well that and Tusk, different from the rest, like very fucking different and shit. But in terms of the movie, like the USQ movies, Clerks 2 and Clerks 3 are like my absolute favorite. Shooting Clerks 3 wasn't nearly as fun as shooting Clerks 2 because, well, number one, if you've seen the movie, it's fucking depressing. But number two, we were shooting it during the tail end of COVID. So we couldn't all like stay together. In fact, it was all about segmenting everybody and keeping everybody separate and shit like that. Like we had the zone badges with zones, like red zone, yellow zone, green zone. So the only zone, like the quick stop itself, only 12 people could ever be in there at any given time and stuff. So it didn't make it as familial. It didn't feel as much as like camp. It didn't mean that it was like a drag or something like that, but it just wasn't the experience that Clerks 2 was. But to be honest with you, it's all fucking good. Even like when we were making Cop Out, and Bruce Willis is like really didn't like me and shit. Still, making movies is more fun than fucking like anything else in the world. And on that movie, you know, when Bruce was there, it was like tough because he really made it clear they didn't give a fuck about me. But when he was gone, like the cast and crew, since they saw the way he treated me, went out of their way to make up for like Bruce's fucking attitude with. So they insulated me with like lots of love and shit like that. And fucking nobody gave a fuck that I smoked weed all through the movie. And then I would be in my trailer like playing video games between takes and playing NHL, EA Sports NHL and shit. But like, leave him alone because he always gets beat up by Bruce. So they insulated me. It was quite nice. So all of them had something going for them, man. And all of them beat having a real fucking job, you know, at the end of the day. It's so weird because like when I worked at Quick Stop, I was like, fucking hate this place. I never want to be here. And then I spent the rest of my career trying to get back there to make movies. So like Clerks 3, even though we were all segmented, there was the way in which we made that was every other time we ever shot at Quick Stop, we were never allowed to shut the convenience store down. The toppers who owned the place would never shut it down. We shot Clerks at night because they would never shut the store down during the fucking day and stuff. So anytime we came back for Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, for Clerks 2 or something like that, they would have the store open. So we would like shoot a scene and then be like, cut. And they'd appear. They're like, oh, you're back with this movie bullshit? You know, like we were convinced. Couldn't do that on Clerks 3 because of COVID. Like we couldn't just have willy-nilly people walking on the set. They could bring fucking COVID with them. So that was the first time we were able to convince the toppers to rent us the place and shut it down. So for 2 weeks, I owned Quick Stop. And it was like my own life-size Castle Grayskull playset. Because I could fucking like, you stand here, you do this, you say this shit and whatnot. And fucking like, I could enter and leave Quick Stop whenever I wanted. And like, people would go to lunch and I would just go sit behind the counter. Because I was like, this is my favorite version of Quick Stop ever. Like, no real customers, they're only fake customers. And I get to just hang out behind the counter with my friends and stuff. So every one of them has something special going for it. Does that answer your question? You in the back.
I've got a mic. You point him out, I'll run to him.
Oh, fucking A. Where we go? He's going to help you out. That guy who just stood up.
But I want you to pick him. They won't hate you. They'll hate me if I don't pick him.
I picked that guy right there. I choose you.
Hi, I'm Andrew.
What's your name?
Andrew.
Give it up for Andrew. He's great.
I was a person I've been here since I was 12. I'm 18 now. No internet. Parents did not know about safety internet.
Wait, so you've been into my shit since you were 12?
Yes.
And you're 18, so that's 6 years ago. And right now we're 2023, so 2017?
Yep.
How does this shit play for a kid? Like, when I look at these movies, I was like, this is for old people. These are senior citizen movies. It's like Cocoon. How does something like fucking Clerks play for, you know, a fucking 12-year-old? Did you ever have a job at that point?
No. Well, I started with like Jay and Silent Bob, and there's a lot of pop culture references, so I recognized a lot of like the people in that kind of got me into like Clerks and your other work.
Fucking nice. So you entered with the fifth movie and like worked back.
Yeah, exactly.
That works. I can understand that a little bit. Like we showed Harley, my daughter, when she was like 2 years old, we showed her Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back with the sound turned down. And she was into it because it was like colorful and shit like that. And I forgot, like she was a huge Scooby-Doo fan. At one point in the movie, we run into fucking a Scooby-looking gang and shit. And her mouth hit the fucking floor. And she was like, you know Scooby? I was like, we do. Dad knows Scooby-Doo. But then she called out real quick and she was like, that's not Scooby-Doo. I was like, what do you mean? Of course it's Scooby-Doo. She goes, that's not Shaggy. I was like, why do you say that? She's like, Shaggy's shirt is green. And the guy who played Shaggy, we couldn't do the exact colors and shit because we would have gotten sued and whatnot. So her going like, Shaggy's shirt is incorrect. I was like, you're just like the fucking internet. I guess I can understand that. Strike Back is an easy way in for people who haven't seen the other movies.
Yeah, also a movie to recommend, Love Exposure. It actually reminds me of a lot of your work. It's Japanese. It's on Internet Archives.
It's called, what is it? Love Exposure?
Love Exposure, yes.
When did that come out?
2008 to 10, I forget exactly. It's well worth the watch. It's 4 hours long, but it does not feel that long.
4 hours? I don't know if I have that kind of time in my life. I had a heart attack a few years ago. I got moments precious.
It's split into different parts. it so you can watch it like a TV show. Also, I severe ADHD and I'm able to get through it. So I mean, it's
Good to know. Good to know.
I was wondering.
Are you medicated for your ADHD?
Oh yes, this is me on medication. I
Good to know. What kind of medication did they give you, and can I have some? You can chop it up and do rails in the back room. I hear that ADHD medicine is really fucking fun.
I actually don't remember what it's called off the top of my head. Sorry. You can.
Honestly, don't give a fuck what it's called. Let's just do it. I'm kidding. I gave up weed. This Tuesday is going to be 23 weeks that I haven't smoked weed. Don't fucking applaud, man. Life is so colorless and horrible. That's why I'm trying to do this ADHD medicine. Anyway, back to you.
Yeah, okay, now, sorry about that long time. Now for my question. What is the hardest scene to shoot out of curiosity for you? What was the hardest?
What, of everything I've ever done?
Everything.
Some people think in Clerks 2, my wife plays a character who makes out with Brian O'Halloran. And some people are like, oh my God, how hard is that for you to watch Brian O'Halloran make out with your wife? I was like, not at all. I was cucking it out the whole fucking time. I was like, kiss harder. I'm only half kidding. I mean, honestly, the aforementioned pop-out was difficult because I'd never been on a set with somebody who didn't want to be there. My entire career, I worked with people who were like, oh my God, this is amazing. We're in the movie business. I can't believe we're making fucking movies and shit. By the time I worked with Bruce, it was way late in his career, and he was just over it and shit. So, like, Tracy was a ray of fucking sunshine. Tracy Morgan was delightful to go to work with every day because he was so excited to be making a movie with Bruce Willis, let alone making a movie, period. Bruce was just like, I can't believe I'm making another Bruce Willis movie, So it was tough. He made it tough some days. But Tracy balanced that at all times. Tracy was like so delightful. Tracy's one of those comedians that feels the need to be on at all times. So he's constantly trying to make you laugh. So I would go home, at the end of the day, my face would hurt from smiling the whole fucking time and shit. Like Tracy on day one of the movie, we get to set before the first take, and which was the scenes in a diner, and we wound up cutting that scene out of the movie. It was initially the first scene of the movie. So while we're setting shit up, Tracy comes over to me. He's like, "Yeah." I was like, "What's up, Tracy?" He's like, "You know what I watched last night?" And he's very much like Jason Mewes, just kind of fucking very ADHD. So I was like, "What'd you watch, Tracy?" He goes, "I watched Frankenstein." And I was like, "Oh, black and white Frankenstein?" He's like, "Yeah, man." I was like, "Well, what'd you think?" He goes, "Fucking Fritz, man." Fritz, I didn't even know who the fuck Fritz was. But I was like, what about Fritz? He's going, Fritz is always getting fucking mistreated in that movie. And he did 20 minutes on fucking Fritz's treatment in Frankenstein. And I was like smiling the whole time because it was hysterical and whatnot. So then we went about shooting the fucking picture and whatnot. And, Tracy is a big ad-libber. I was like, Tracy, don't ad-lib. I was like, because, Bruce likes to stick to the script and shit, so just stick to the fucking script. And he goes, I can't ad-lib never? And I was like, honestly, let's not upset Bruce and shit, so let's stick to the script. So we shoot the first take of this fucking movie. I'm like, action. And Bruce instantly goes off script. He's looking out the window at this diner, and he's just like, is that Maury Povich out there? I think that's Maury Povich. And I'm like looking at the script supervisor. I was like, is that in the fucking script? I don't remember this line at all.
You're not the
and then he's
father.
going like, I think that's Yoda out there. I seen Yoda and shit. He's just fucking like making shit up. And Tracy is like looking at him all confused and shit. We got finished with the first take. Tracy comes over and he's just like, Bruce is making lines up. And he's like, I know, it's a really weird thing. Unless Maury Povich was really outside. I guess he just using his way into the script and shit. And then Tracy's like, well, if he's going to make up lines, I'm going to make up lines. I was like, all right, fucking all bets are off. Feel free. So we go to the second take. I'm like, action. And Bruce is looking out the window. He's like, I think I see Maury Povich out there. She's doing the same fucking thing. And all of a sudden, Tracy goes, yo, Jimmy, you know what I watched last night? Frankenstein. And he proceeds to ad-lib that fucking same 20-minute routine he did for me. And fucking Bruce's face, turns many different colors because he's like, where are these fucking lines coming from? So Tracy just made it fun at all times. And even though there were times where Bruce didn't make it fun, Tracy could balance that out. So I would say those scenes, some of the scenes in Cop Out were tough, just because I was never used to working with somebody who didn't want to be there. Making movies is like the easiest, funnest thing in the world. It's like making pretend as an adult. So when you meet somebody that's like, I don't want to fucking be here, it feels kind of weird.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's why I want to be an actor and director.
You want to be an actor and director? Fucking A, man. Do it. I can't recommend it enough. Good time. Okay, where were you going? Right there on the aisle. That guy with the hat. Yeah, the backwards hat. So what are you doing? Chris? Oh my God, you're going to hold the mic for him as well? Like a human mic stand? Oh, fucking sorry. You can take it. Put it in your hands. That's what she said. Put it in your hands. Yeah. Two-handed. Go back. Chris, give it up for Chris.
Yeah.
All of our bucket list, a lot of us here. I'm wondering, as a man, a jack of all trades, you've done a little bit of everything. Passion project. What about for you? What's on your bucket list?
What's on my bucket list? Oh, what a great question.
That is a good question.
The concept of the bucket list only came into being like while I was in the midst of my career. Well, in the 70s and 80s, nobody was talking about bucket lists. It's a popularized phrase. I was already making movies. And so, honestly, I don't think there's anything on my bucket list, because for years I've just been like dreaming it and doing it. Right. Like manifesting reality is kind of how I see my job. It's ridiculous because I can't. It's ridiculous because you don't really manifest reality. Like my mom was in the hospital for 11 weeks. If I could manifest reality, I would have been like, she's cured. Like, I couldn't do that shit. All I really do is dream up dopey ass movies to make, and if I can make them come true, that's what I feel like is manifesting reality. But it is a dreamer's job, and everyone dreams. Everyone in this room can fucking dream and stuff. The next step is the more difficult step, and that's why everyone doesn't do that part. Turning the dream into reality. If you can figure out how to do that shit, oh my God, the world is yours. So there's never been something where I'm like, I've yet to do this one fucking thing. There are things in my business you're supposed to want to win like an Academy Award, but I've never given a shit about something like that. I never saw myself as an awards person. Like early in my career, they gave me awards, and I was like, what the fuck? I mean, the bar must be very low. And then later in my career, they stopped giving me awards. I was like, this makes sense. But I'm trying to think, like, what are the bucket? Is there any bucket list?
What about a property that you haven't worked on? Like so many things, He-Man.
Well, I mean, He-Man I worked on, and the whole world was like, stop it. But we did do a season 2, which I just downloaded. It was 5 episodes, and I just saw what they call the first take of episode 5.
How about Disney?
What's that?
How about Disney franchises?
How about Disney franchises? Why do you ask? Man in a Disney costume.
Hello, I'm the OG Disney villain.
Holy shit, you must be hot as fuck. Honestly, Disney, my kid is a huge fucking Disney fan. So if I had it in me to do a Disney thing, like even at age, she's about to be fucking. She just passed. She just turned 24. So you'd imagine like fucking she would have left that Disney shit behind, but she loves fucking Disney. She has a season pass to go to fucking Disneyland because we live in California. And she got her own house now, right? And so whenever I go over her house, she don't watch like TV like a normal ass person. She has YouTube on her television, and on YouTube, she watches people that go to Disneyland and just shoot it with their cameras. This is a whole fucking subgenre on YouTube where there are people that just go to Disney and walk around the park with a camera and just shoot things. They don't even talk. They're not like, look at this shit. They're just, it's creepy. It looks like a Kubrick film. So that is her favorite fucking, sit the fuck down. That is her favorite. I can't even hear you through the costume, so stop. It's her favorite thing to do, man. She watches that shit. So if I could do a Disney thing, she'd be fucking happy. She'd be like, oh, finally, I respect you, not just as a filmmaker, but as a father, But I like Disney, I respect what they've done and whatnot, but I'm not a dyed-in-the-wool Disney person like she is. So there's nothing there that I could think of. I almost worked on a Disney thing, or in fact, I did write a Disney thing for Disney Plus before they even knew what they were going to call it, when it was just the streaming network that they were building. The folks at Disney Channel were initially in charge, and then they shit-canned those people and put this guy from marketing in charge. What was his name? Tony something. He was the motherfucker who was like, you know what we should do? Star Wars shows and Marvel shows. So as mad as I was that I didn't get to do the show they hired me to do, I love Star Wars shows and Marvel shows. So I was like, look, fucking, as much as I hate to admit it, that guy's a genius and shit. He has since moved on. But at the beginning, when Disney Channel was running the aforementioned to-be-named streaming network before it was called Disney Plus, they had one show in development, and it was High School Musical, the musical, which I believe they've gone on to do. We were the second show that was going to be in development, and it's based on a series of Disney books called Kingdom Keepers. And the plot of these books is essentially like when the park closes at night, fucking all the rides come to life and the characters come to life and shit like that. So they asked me, like at one point my agent was like, Disney wants you to go in and pitch. And I was like, Walt Disney? I was like, have they seen the fucking movies I did? Now, to be fair, I used to work for Disney back in the day. Miramax was owned by the Walt Disney Company when I first entered the business. So Clerks, Mallrats, I made at Universal. Chasing Amy, Dogma, we made with them, but then they made us sell it. Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, Jersey Girl. All those movies were made under the Disney umbrella. My paycheck had fucking Mickey Mouse on it. Anytime they sent me a paycheck. So technically I was a Disney employee and shit. But, you know, it had been years since I'd worked for fucking Disney. When my agent was like, they want me to come in and pitch. I was like, why? They were like, I don't know, they read your comics, they've seen some other things you've done, they think you might be a different voice to bring in. So they brought me in, and I pitched this version of Kingdom Keepers. They didn't want me to do the books. They liked the concept, that was it. They're like, you can change all the names, you can change everything. We just like the idea of the park coming to life after dark and stuff. So I wrote like a long-ass pitch document, it was like 9 pages and shit. And when you pitch, you're supposed to go in and just, fucking make eye contact and talk and blah, blah, blah. But, I didn't give a fuck. I thought it was whimsical that they had me in, and I knew I'd never get the fucking job. So I went in and met with the execs, and I was like, look, I know if I was younger, I'd pitch and stand up and look you in the eyes and shit, but, like, I would rather just read my document out loud. If you like, I'll look up every once in a while, but, like, it makes more sense for me to just read this shit. And they're like, okay. So I read them my fucking 9 pages, and at the end of it, they were in love with it. And I was hired, and I got the fucking job. Then I had a heart attack, where I almost died 5 fucking years ago and shit. And while I was mending, I went, I couldn't go out, I couldn't leave my house or anything like that. So I started working on Kingdom Keepers. And the folks at Disney were like absolutely fucking lovely. And they sent me like this big box of cookies that looked like Mickey Mouse with his shorts and ears and stuff like that. And I posted a picture on Instagram going, oh, look what the folks, my partners at Disney sent me and shit. And fucking the internet tore them a new asshole. They're like, he just had a fucking heart attack. And you're going to give him buttery cookies, you fucking satanic pricks. And the folks at Disney were like, can you please take that picture down? And I was like, why? And they're like, because people are yelling at us about your fucking health and shit like that. So I worked on the show for a while. It went far too. Like the whole time I was always like, this show's never going to fucking happen and shit. But every step of the way, they kept fucking like bringing me in for shit. They're like, we want you to come in and see this new technology because we might want to shoot the show with it. And what it was the volume. It's the wall that they shoot The Mandalorian on, where, there's this giant LED wall where if you take a camera, the background moves as if you're in a real fucking place. If you follow Mandalorian at all or watch that shit on the making of on Disney Plus, long before there was a Mandalorian, they took me in and showed me this new technology. They're like, we think this would be good for the fucking show. And I was like, yeah, great, if it ever happens, sure. Then fucking they introduced me to a producer, the guy that was going to produce the show, and I was like, yeah, I really don't believe this is ever going to happen and shit like that. Then they took us to Disneyland after fucking dark, so we could go scout and shit. And I was like, these are the 2 tunnels that enter the park. You can shoot during the day. We'll close down one of the tunnels. You can have this side. They took me to all the fucking rides, when they were the dark rides, but while it was closed and shit, turned the lights on and shit, because that was a big part of the plot of the show. So one of my favorite memories in my entire career was, I've been on Space Mountain a bunch and shit like that. They took me on Space Mountain, not on the fucking ride, but walking the tracks with all the fucking lights on. So I got to see what the fuck it looks like, and it's dangerous. Crazy fucking dangerous, man. So by the time, like, you know, we were scouting locations, not just in Disneyland itself, because we were going to use the park, but also Vancouver, because so many of the things took place in, like, it started in the ride, and then it became its own fucking world and shit. So we got closer and closer to it becoming a show, and finally they convinced me that it was going to happen. The whole time I've been like, the show's never going to fucking happen and shit. And when I was finally convinced that it was going to happen, that's when that other guy got hired. He read the fucking breakdown, and he was like, this show uses far too much Disney IP. Everything they ever did was in this fucking show. Mickey Mouse was a fucking character. He was a secret janitor. In the last episode, you find out that this old guy was Mickey Mouse and shit. Captain Hook was the bad guy. Fucking, like, every character was fucking touched upon and shit. And this guy who they put in charge was like, this is blowing all of our fucking IP in one TV show, and we're risking it on the fucking Mallrats guy. So they pulled the fucking plug and shit. So I got close, but you know, no cigar and shit. And my kid was so excited while I was working on it. She was like, oh my God, we're gonna be able to go to fucking Disney like after dark and shit. And then when they killed the show, she was saying, I'll never forget, my kid was like, I knew you would fuck this up. But let me think. What is there something? I mean, there's a hockey miniseries I've wanted to do for a few years. At one point, it was called Hit Somebody. We're gonna call it something else, possible to pull it off and shit. So what happens is sometimes, like, I'm into the idea of doing a thing, and then I'm like Homer Simpson, like on that one episode of The Simpsons where it's like, oh my God, an exact double of me. Oh my God, a dog with a puffy tail, and I turn my attention and just start focusing on something else. Beautiful thing about what I've done over the last, fucking 30 years is if I can manifest reality, if I can dream up something and do it, I will let go of the thing I'm working on to do something that's easier to bring to life and stuff. So the Hit Somebody or the hockey miniseries eventually we'll get to. There's something I've been threatening to make for years now, a movie called Moose Jaws, which is basically, we don't know what it is. It's Jaws, but with a moose instead of a shark. And fucking, like, whenever I tell people about that, that's the reaction. They really titter. They're like, ah. And then I'm like, can I get money? And they're like, fuck no. But when we made Clerks 3 with the good folks at Lionsgate, they had home video on Jay and Silent Bob reboot. And then they also wound up, sold so many fucking units of DVDs and Blu-rays that they were like, if you have any more of this Jay and Silent Bob bullshit, we'll make it. And I was like, dude, I have way more Jay and Silent Bob. And that's how Clerks 3 came to be. So there came a point in our relationship, like you hope for in every fucking relationship, that when you're working with people that give you money for something, they ask the question. And the question is usually like, so, what are you working on next? And when they asked me that, I was like, oh shit, well there's a bunch of things, man. And they're like what? I was like, well, there's this one thing I'm trying to do with Universal called Mallrats 2. And they were just like, well, fuck, can we be involved in that? I was like, well, somebody's gonna have to be involved because Universal doesn't even realize they own Mallrats 1. And anytime I'm like, hey man, I wrote Mallrats 2, I'm ready to make it here. And they're like, we own Mallrats? It's like, yes, it was a fucking Universal movie and shit. And I give them the script and whatnot, and then we have a meeting afterwards, and they're like, this is neither fast nor furious. So it's been a real long process with them. And like Lionsgate was like, well, maybe we can partner up with Universal. We do that sort of thing. And I was like, all right, that could be a cool thing. Like, what else are you working on? And I was like, there's this movie I want to make called Moose Jaws. And they're like, what's that? I was like, well, it's Jaws with a moose instead of shark. And they're like, how much does that cost? And I was like, we did a budget, it's only about $3 million. They're like, we'll make 5 of them. So I know sooner or later, like, Moose Jaws will happen and stuff. I don't know, there's really, like, I really kind of, if I dream it, I wind up doing it. So there's really nothing that I can think of that I'm like, what's left or something like that. And so it's good. It's a nice position to be in where I don't have a bucket list or I don't feel like, when I had the fucking heart attack, like the doctor was like, you're having a widowmaker heart attack. I was like, what's that? He's like, that's where I've got a full occlusion in the LAD, the artery that goes across your heart. And in 80% of the cases where somebody's having a heart attack that you have, the patient always dies. But you're going to be in the 20% because I'm good at my job. And he was, and he saved my fucking life. But while I was laying on the table, I had this weird sense of peace where I was like, oh, if I fucking die tonight, it would suck because I was only 47, but I was like, still, I really got to do like everything that I wanted to do, and now it's just repetition. It's more of the same. Nothing wrong with that, fucking. It's not. That would be like saying like, I hate getting another blowjob. It's all fucking good if you keep going and shit like that. But there was no sense of like, wait, there's something I've yet to do and shit like that. So I was content to fucking die that night. But then I remembered, I was like, wait a second. If I die tonight, Yoga Hosers is the last movie I ever made. Fuck, save my life. And he didn't save my fucking life. But yeah, nothing I can think of. I guess like in my personal life, it'll be nice when Harley has a kid one day, and I'll get to be like a grandparent and shit like that. Hopefully, that's way down the line. I already feel fucking old most days and shit. I'm gonna be 53 in August. But there's nothing I could think of, man. That I'm like, ooh, I'm just dying to do this or something like that. Which, on some level, I'm happy about. You know what I'm saying? There's no.
That's a good thing.
It is kind of a good thing. Now, it's not to say I don't dream. Like, I'll dream up shit all the time. Be like, oh, this would be great. This would be fucking great. Like, off the record, put that fucking camera down so I can say some shit. Put it down. Turn it off.
Kevin, we got time for one last question.
Are you serious? Oh my God, I wasted all that time.
It was not a waste at all. Not a waste.
We'll do two more.
Big boss.
My man is standing, and he's been standing the whole time. Do you feel like you have a worthy fucking question of the last two?
Oh.
That sounded fucking convincing, like maybe. Here we go, man.
Here we go.
Make it count.
When stars is coming to digital.
We're not going to count that because that sucks. Dogma's already on digital. If you go to YouTube right now, there's a 4K version of it that's pristine. That's where I watch it all the time. So it's technically available free as fuck. And here's where shit gets weird and sad. It's owned not by a company, but by a person, by an individual. And that individual, clench your assholes, kids, is Harvey Weinstein. Harvey Weinstein personally owns that movie. So 2 years ago, we started making overtures about buying the movie back. First, I wrote a very long letter to a fucking convicted rapist, telling him that like I really wanted to buy this Catholic movie back, and it represented a big part of my youth, and my fucking father's tied into it as well. And I offered $250,000 to buy it back, the theatrical rights to it. I heard back from his lawyer, no. So I fucking wrote another letter and offered $500K, heard back, no. And then I got some friends together, because I am fucking Scrooge McDuck and shit. I got some people together who had a vested interest in the movie, people who were in the movie and shit, who are now fucking billionaires. And I was like, hey man, let's put together some loot. And I made $1 million offer to buy the flick back, and was still told no. Oh. So, fucking, I don't know, yes. So I don't know that I'll ever be able to get it back, because this asshole, I think he's holding on for $5 million, and I don't think it's worth it. It's worth $1 billion to me, but like $5 million actual dollars handed over to a fucking rapist, like that makes me uncomfortable and shit. Made me uncomfortable even making money offers to the guy. But then people were just like, he ain't gonna keep the money, he has to give it to his fucking victims. I was like, oh, you're right. But as it turns out, he ain't willing to fucking sell it at this point. So, like I tell everybody, watch it on YouTube for free. That's where I do it all the time. Like fucking, and whenever I'm like, oh, I want to see Dogma, I'm like, oh, shit, it's free. And I watch it there. There's a really nice Blu-ray of it and stuff, but I have to dig that out every once in a while, so I just go to YouTube instead. The 4K transfer is like pristine. So watch it there, free of charge.
Get one of his victims to ask for it as their payment.
Get one of his victims to ask for it as a payment. Not a bad fucking idea. I know, right? Wow. How weird. We opened with my dead dog, we moved on to Harvey Weinstein. Bizarre Q&A.
That's what we do on this Kevin Smith project.
Yes. Lightsaber, go ahead, yell it out. Hi, what's your name? Everyone give it up for Josh. Second to last. You feel like you got a wordy question?
Yeah.
Here we
I also
go.
go by Darth Bob today.
Say again?
Darth Bob.
Darth Vader was
Darth Bob, very,
Yeah, it's
very
like a
cool.
play-on.
Not really a question, though.
What would you think about, you know, the mirror universe like they have in Star Trek, right?
Yeah.
What if something happened like that to Jay, Silent Bob, or to any of them? Like,
So it's not a question, this is more of a pitch.
what would you think? I mean, would you think that might be a good thing?
In the mirror universe, yeah, actually, I don't have a mirror universe in me, but in Mallrats 2, which is called Twilight of the Mallrats, it's written and shit. It's wonderful. I love the script. I'm a big Mallrats fan. But in it, Jay and Silent Bob meet their arch nemesis, Silent Jay and Bob. And the dynamic is, I mean, it's not that creative, it's just reversed. So the fucking Bob talks and the Jay doesn't and shit. So if we get there, man, you'll get to see those two fucking fight and shit. I would like to do it. Universal has different ideas. All right, way in the back, do you feel you got an evening? Yeah, I'm pointing to you and you're pointing to yourself. Do you feel you have an evening ending question?
I do.
All right, here we go, man. What's your name? Hal. Give it up for Hal. He's going right. All right, Hal, take us home.
So, I saw, you came to Atlanta and did.
Hold on one second. You don't want to give him the fucking
So, first of all, quick anecdote. I promise to do it. Yesterday, walked outside. There's a ice cream truck playing Your Ears Hang Low, and behind me, I hear somebody start singing along to it, but they're changing the words. They're like, "Does your dick hang low?" I'm like, you know, kids ruin everything. And he goes into the second verse. And I turn around, and of course it's Jay.
I knew where this was going. That was no child. That child is nearly 50 years old. He does. If you've seen Jay around the con, he's got. I bought him he asked me. It wasn't my idea, but he's got like whenever his birthday comes here, he's like, you know, I got an Amazon wish list. So I usually go to the Amazon wish list, and he's got a suitcase that has a motor in it. So he sits on it. He's got places to put his feet. And he trucks around. If you're ever in an airport with him, and I spend a lot of time at airports with him, like he'll get off the plane and be like, later, fucker. So he's been doing it around the con as well. If you see him tomorrow, man, you go up to his table and be like, ride your little fucking suitcase. And he'll fucking do it. It's like a circus bear. It's
So years ago, you came to Atlanta and showed Red State.
Yeah.
And you said that you were basically done. You didn't have any more stories.
Yeah, I retired.
Where did the rest of them come from?
I retired. I said, Steven Soderbergh was like, I'm retiring. I was like, that's a good idea. And I tried to retire. And for 3 years, I went heavy into podcasting and touring. So, like, we did Jay and Silent Bob's Super Groovy cartoon movie at that point, toured it, and I was constantly doing podcasts. Then we started taking those on the road and shit like that. And then during an episode of Smodcast, during an episode of Smodcast, that's when we started doing a story about that we read online about a guy in England who was renting out a room in his mansion for free. You could live in this fucking mansion. You just had to agree for 2 hours every day to dress up like a walrus. And so me and Scott Moser, my podcast partner on Smodcast, just fell down this rabbit hole of like, what the fuck? Man, you're going to show up, this guy's going to knock you out and sew you into that fucking costume shit. And that's where Tusk came from. So while I was sitting there on the podcast, we were like making up this goofy ass movie. And you can listen to the podcast. It's episode 258. It's called The Walrus and the Carpenter. It's on YouTube and stuff, of Smodcast. And you hear me at one point go like, we're all the brave fucking filmmakers who will make this man-to-walrus transformation movie. And then I remember that I used to be a brave fucking filmmaker. And so I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Copyright Kevin Scott. Trademark Kevin Scott. Like, I'm going to write this fucking movie. And if you think that's a good idea, go to Twitter and hashtag Walrus Yes. And if you think that's a stupid idea, hashtag Walrus no. And I'll abide by whatever the internet says and shit. And so we put that podcast episode up. And then the next day, waited for reaction. And there was a sea of Walrus yes. Everybody like, do it. Like this guy, like, do it. Shit. One Walrus no. And the Walrus no guy wrote, I'm really Walrus yes, but I'm voting Walrus no to support the democratic process. So at that point, I was like, well, fuck, man, the internet thinks it's a good idea. Like, maybe I should do it. Never listen to the fucking internet. And I started writing Tusk as a screenplay, and it captured my imagination. Like, I kind of fell in love with the idea, and I was like, you know, it felt like some fever-pitch dream of a movie that I'd seen when I was a kid, but didn't really exist. So as I was writing it, I was like, maybe I will fucking come out of retirement and make this fucking movie, man. Like, we're fucking trying to give it to somebody else. Who's gonna fucking make this? I'm the only one really interested in this kind of shit. So when I was done with the script, like, first person I showed it to was Jennifer, my wife. She's a big reader and shit. So I was like, hey man, I'm working on a thing. I wasn't even done yet. I think I was 50 pages in. She was like, what are you banging out in there? What are you working on? She's like, I thought you stopped making movies. I thought you stopped writing. And I was like, oh, I started writing a new screenplay. She's like, did you? She was like, thank God, because I'd taken off for 3 years. She married a filmmaker, and then one day I was like, I'm retired. And she was like, fuck. So she was like, can I read it? And I was like, yeah, I'll give you the first 50 pages and shit like that. So I gave her the first 50 pages of Tusk. And I went down to my office and shit. We got like a phone system in the house where you can intercom from room to room and shit.
Fancy.
And I was sitting down in my office and I heard boop, boop. That's the internet. The intercom system lets you know somebody's about to talk. And she goes, can you come down to our bedroom, please? And I was like, yeah, all right. And I went down to the bedroom, opened the door, and she had this horrified fucking face on her. And she's pointing to the fucking script, smoking a cigarette, going, what the fuck is this? And I was like, it's this idea that me and Mosier were talking about on episodes of podcast. It's kind of fucked up, man. What do you think? She's going, what do I think? Is it finished? And I was like, no. She's going, Kevin, this is so fucking scary. Like, and I don't mean the story's scary. I think it's scary that you're fucking writing this. And I was like, yeah, but like, what do you think? She's going, I kind of want to know what happens next. And I was like, really? And she was like, yeah, what's going to happen to this boy in the movie? And I said, nothing good. And she goes, we finish it. And I was like, all right. So I fucking finished Tusk, and I gave it to her and shit. And then she went and read it, and then she was, boop, boop, will you come down here, please? I went back down to the bedroom and sat down. I was like, what'd you think? She points to the script, she's like, I don't know how else to say this, so I'm going to say this. This is by far the stupidest thing I've ever read in my life. I was like, but? She goes, but it really held together. I was like, really? She's going, I would like to fucking see this movie. And she was like, it's not like it's going to hurt your career. You have no more career. And so we started pursuing fucking Tusk, man. We put the script out there, tried to find money, and people were like, get out of your fucking money. Then I got this call from this guy, Sam Engelberg. And he called me out of the blue. He's like, is this Kevin Smith? I was like, yeah. He goes, Kevin Smith that wrote the screenplay to a movie called Tusk? I was like, yeah, you fucking saw it? And he said, yeah, I fucking read it. He goes, would you like to meet this evening to talk about this movie? And I was like, yeah, I'd fucking love to. I gave him my address, came over to my house and shit. Sam Engelberg. And so I said to him, he came in, I said hi, we introduced each other and shit. He's like, I work for a company called Demarest. We add money to movies as finishing funds. Movies that are almost done, run out of money. We come in, save the day and stuff like that. And they're pretty big movies. He was listening to shit. I was like, well, what does that have to do with me? He's going, well, this fucking script came across my desk. And I started reading it, and I could not fucking stop. I was like, really? And he said, yeah. He goes, this is the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard. I was like, I've heard a lot of that lately. He's going, but the weird thing is, it really held together. And I was like, really? And he goes, yeah. And he's going like, I would fucking kind of like to see it. And he's going, so, we're done. We're at the end of our year. Because it was like October and shit. And he's like, so I know we're not financing anything else. And we've got a $3 million slush fund that we keep in the office for like lunch or whatever. He's going, could you make this movie for $3 million? If you could make this movie for $3 million, I would like to finance this movie. I was like, look, I don't know if we can, but I'm gonna say yes. We can absolutely fucking make this movie for $3 million. So he financed fucking Tusk, and then I went back to work. And I had such a good time doing it that I was like, oh, I guess I'm not retired anymore. And that led to Yoga Hosers, which really killed my career for a minute. But then that led to Jay and Silent Bob reboot after the heart attack and Clerks 3, which we just finished. And now in mid-August, we started a new movie that I wrote called The 430 Movie, which is set in like 1986. It's kind of like not so much a memoir, but it's like a pay on to my youth, so to speak. It's a coming-of-age story. It's a story about kids who go to multiplexes, pay for one movie, and just hop from movie to movie to movie. Something you can't really do anymore because now they give you reserved seating and shit like that. So what we used to do as kids was that. That's how I spent most of my youth. So I was like, I'm gonna write a movie about that because I bought a movie theater in my hometown. The movie theater I used to go to when I was a kid, they were selling it and shit because the pandemic hit it real hard and shit. So me and a couple of my friends bought the fucking movie theater and whatnot. And the moment I bought it, I was like, well, that's a location. That's an entire fucking set. It's stupid to own a movie theater and not make a movie set in the movie theater and stuff. So I started working on the movie and stuff. And it's like, if you're ever, it's not, I mean, how far are we from Jersey? I guess pretty fucking far. We're kind of on the East Coast. We're in the same time zone, right? So if you ever make it up to Jersey, man, go to Smodcastle Cinemas. We do fun shit there all the time. Like we have this Clerks marathon, it was called Open All Night, where we started showing Clerks at midnight, and then Clerks 2 and Clerks 3, and we showed them until 6 in the morning. People slept over and shit. We just had a Clerks cartoon marathon with Jeff and Brian came and stuff. We did Mallrats there with Jason Lee, Chasing Lee as well. We did Jersey Girl with Raquel Castro, who's a little Jersey girl. She came out, she's like 27 years old now and stuff. So it's a real fun fucking place, man, where I basically get to do like any show I want and stuff like that. And we're doing on July 29th. It's sold out, but like a script reading of Superman Lives, the script that I wrote fucking years ago. It'll be a good time. So I live there when I'm in Jersey. Normally, I don't have a house in Jersey anymore and stuff. My house was in California. But whenever I went back to Jersey, I'd stay at like the Marriott Courtyard or something. But the movie theater came with an apartment above it. So like my partners, they all live in Jersey, so like we don't need the apartment, you can have the apartment. So like now whenever I go back in New Jersey, I live in this apartment over the movie theater, which is like the most adorable fucking thing ever. I'm a filmmaker who lives in the movie theater. It's like being a cobbler who lives in a giant shoe. So I love it so much, man. But we inherited the staff, and the staff is all fucking kids, like literally teenage kids, man. One of them plays fucking field hockey and shit. So it's not even like when I worked at Quick Stop, I was in my 20s. These are fucking high school kids and shit. And so periodically, since I live upstairs, like the beautiful thing is you just like, anytime you feel like movie snacks, you just fucking roll downstairs. So sometimes I'm up in my room fucking writing or watching TV, and I was like, I feel like Twizzlers. And I just go downstairs and get Twizzlers and come out of the door, and there's always some kid behind the popcorn counter that I scare the fuck out of, not on purpose. But I just open the door, I'm like, holy shit! I'm just here for Twizzlers, and I grab Twizzlers. So I fucking went down one night to grab some fucking popcorn, and opened the door, and there was a kid working there who I'd never seen before and shit like that. And opened the door behind the concessions counter, and fucking, I was like, hi, and they're like, holy shit. And I was like, oh, sorry, somebody should have warned you. And they're like, somebody did. And I was like, what do you mean? And they're like, oh, they told me that fucking sometimes you just creep out of the walls. And I was like, get out of here. They told you that? And they said, yeah, you come and you steal snacks and run back and stuff. I was like, well, I guess that's true. And they're like, they got a name for you around here. And I was like, really? What do they call me? And the chick goes, they call you the Phantom. I was like, that's kind of badass. So I wrote a movie to do at that fucking movie theater and stuff. And then, like I said, perhaps we get to bump into Chronic next. So Tusk brought me out of retirement. I was fully like content to like never make another movie again. Then when we went to work on Tusk, I had such a good fucking time. I was like, why am I giving this shit up? And then when I had the heart attack and almost died, I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I gave up movie making for 3 years. I want to leave this life toes up off a movie set. Like, hopefully I'm like, action, I drop fucking dead, and the tape just goes on forever. Because nobody's ever said cut. So, Tusk was what brought me back, oddly enough. You've seen the Walrus movie, right? Fucked up. But I think because of that, like, as weird as it was, it infused me with the joy that brought me to filmmaking in the first place. You know, like Clerks is a very realistic movie because I worked at that convenience store and shit. That's why I think the 4:30 movie is kind of very close spiritually to Clerks. It's not a movie about people who work in a movie theater, but it's about like the movie theater and how I used to spend all my time in movie theaters. So if y'all like are into being in a movie, you can come up to Jersey when we're shooting. I'm gonna put up a notice on my Instagram and shit and on my Twitter, and now on my Threads, because like we need people to fill the fucking movie theater. So it's like it's set in the '80s, so you gotta fucking kind of look '80s and shit like that. But if you're up for like, hey man, I always wanted to do a fucking movie, you're gonna have your chance, man. You'll sit there for fucking days at a time and shit. And being in movies sounds fun until you do it for a minute, and then you're like, this is fucking boring. Like on Dogma, we were shooting a scene in Dogma, a scene outside of movies where it was like Chris Rock, Linda Fiorentino, and Jason Mewes, and I was in the scene too, but we were doing Chris Rock's coverage, so I didn't have to be there, and I was behind the monitor as the director. So we're shooting the scene, and all of a sudden out of nowhere, Chris Rock just breaks down laughing. And I was like, cut, and I go over, I was like, what happened? And he's like, look at Jason. And I looked over at Mewes, and Mewes was asleep off camera. And he was like, he's fucking sleeping through the tape, man. I fucking woke him up, I was like, get the fuck up. He's like, oh, I didn't come to you, Pete, I swear. And, I was like, what the fuck are you doing, man? You can't just fucking go to sleep. You gotta be there for the other actors and shit like that. You gotta be professional. And Jason said the line that like has defined fucking movies for me for the rest of my life. He got all defensive. He's like, I can't help it. They just keep saying the same shit over and over. So if you're into the idea of listening to people say the same shit over and over, mid-August to like second week of September, we're going to be making a flick. And if you got time off or whatever, coming up to Smodcast. You won't get paid, but you'll eat a lot of free popcorn. You'll see a movie while it's happening. I guess that's it for us. Do you have a good time tonight? I could not thank you enough for coming out and doing it, man. Make sure you have a good fucking time all day tomorrow. I'm on a plane and shit, but Jason Mewes is still going to be here. Thank you all for your continued interest in the nonsense that I do. Thanks for coming out and spending some time with me on Saturday night. I love you all. Good night, everybody.